This video will demonstrate how to make a modification to a quantity block that was created in Microstation. Normally, we tell our designers or technicians in the districts to create their quantity blocks. That way they can use formulas in Excel and they can make modifications a lot easier in the Excel program. Then once they got their quantity block done, they map it over to Microstation and it places it as Microstation geometry in the DGN file. But there are certain times where a designer or a technician decides that they want to manually do it in Microstation. So if we want to insert stuff in here, we have to use the Microstation tools to insert a row or a column or whatever operation that you're wanting to do, and I'll kind of demonstrate how to do that in this example. First thing that we're going to do is I'm going to use my element selection tool, and if I hover over top of it, you'll see that they're kind of all grouped together. I'm going to go ahead and ungroup it to make life a little bit easier on me down the road whenever I try to offset some lines and do some other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and then now if I go to the edit pull down, I'm going to select this option here that says ungroup. So I'll select ungroup. I'll go ahead and left click on the blank screen somewhere to drop it off, and then now you'll see as I'm using my element selection tool, you'll see that instead of the whole quantity block being selected, you'll see individual text or lines being selected. So that kind of indicates to me that it's all ungrouped now. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a row in this area right here to add some text inside here for maybe construction use. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull out my fence tools. I'm going to go ahead and open it up as a toolbox. You don't necessarily have to do this back at your desk, but I'm going to do it for this video here. So I'll pull that tool out. First tool that I'm going to use is the place fence. And you'll have some options inside the box where it says block or inside. I'm going to go ahead and leave it set to block. I'll leave my fence mode set to inside. That's fine. Now I'm going to define a fence starting up in this area right here. I'll left click once. I'll pull it across, and now I'm just going to get just a little bit below this bottom line across here. I don't want to drag it too far down. I'm just going to get just a little bit past that bottom line, kind of like what I have in the example here. So I'll left click to drop it off, and I got my fence defined. Oops, one thing I forgot to do. I'm going to go ahead and reset my fence by clicking on this little icon again. I need to know a distance that I need to put inside here. And for this example, I'm going to use this distance like it is in my main text down below here. So if I go down here and use my measure tools, I'm going to go ahead and open up as a toolbox. Now use the very first one in the toolbar, which is the measure distance. And I'm going to go ahead and leave my mode or method set to between points. My snap, it's set to the key point snap, which is fine. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and snap between these 2 points right here to kind of define what distance that I want to make this row that I'm going to do here in a little bit. So I'll left click once, I'll snap to that point. You'll see a little blue construction line where you want to go to next. I'll go ahead and select this little point down below here, and it gives me a distance of 0.25. That's all I need to know. I just want to know that distance. So I'll go ahead and close those 2 boxes down. I'll kind of right click to reset the tools. And then now I'll go back to my fence mode or my fence tools. I'll use my place fence, and I'll go ahead and define my fence again. I'll left click once, left click again, and I got my fence defined because I'm going to insert a row in this area right here. Next thing that I'm going to do, pull my tools back out, is I'm going to use this tool right here that says modify fence contents. So I'll select it, kind of pull this down a little bit, and the tool that I'm going to use is the very last one in the toolbar, which is called stretch. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this quantity block out. So I'll select it, and to do this properly, that way it stays perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal, I want to go ahead and toggle on my AccuDraw. So I'll go ahead and select it, and you should see this little box out here somewhere. You can drag it out wherever you want to, but I just want to have that out there so I can define a certain distance whenever I stretch this quantity block up. So I'll go back to my tool, modify fence contents. I'll use my stretch tool. What you'll have to do is go out here and it's going to say enter first point. Where do you want to start at? And I'll just go ahead and left click out on the screen somewhere. And then now if I pull my mouse up or down, depending on how you want to do this, all I have to do is just pull it up in this direction, making sure it's locked in, because you can kind of see it lock if you just pull it up in this direction, up in the positive Y. And then now AccuDraw it knows what direction that you're going, so all you'll have to do is type in the number that you want to put in. And since we know our number, which is 0.25, I'm going to go ahead and just type in 0.25. And if that's what you want, everything looks good. I want to make sure I keep it in the Y direction. I don't want to pull it in the X. I want to make sure it's locked in my Y. Everything looks good. I can just go ahead and left click to drop it off. And then once I'm done with it, I'm going to go ahead and right click to reset the tool. Okay? Now you'll see that you still have a fence out there. To drop off that fence, all you have to do is go ahead and select the place fence tool again. It will actually kind of reset it and drop off that fence if there was an active fence out there. Now, we kind of stretch that area up. Now what we need to do is take this line right here, and we're going to go ahead and copy it, that same distance that we just typed in, which is 0.25. One way we could do it is we could copy it and copy it down 0.25, or another tool that you could use is the move parallel. I'm going to go ahead and use that tool. A mode, we can just leave it set to original. We know our distance is 0.25, which is good. We'll go ahead and check mark the one that says keep original, because we want to keep our original line here. And we're going to go ahead and uncheck this one that says use active attributes. That way it uses the attributes of what this line is instead of the active attributes that you have up above here. So I'll go ahead and select this line right here. Now, depending on which side my mouse is on is going to determine where this line is going to be dropped off at. Since I want it to go down, of course, I'll go ahead and pull my cursor down on the bottom side of it, just somewhere. I'll left click to drop it off. Everything looks good. I'll go ahead and right click to reset the tool, and you're finished. Next thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is select the pieces of the text that I want to copy. That way I can copy them up above here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one right here, and I'll just go ahead and select this one right here. Just those two. Everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and use my copy tool. So I'll go up down below here and select copy. And since I kind of have some sharing points, since I know this row height's the same as what this is, and my column width through here is the same, what I can do is use my intersection snap, which is this one right here. And I'll go ahead and I'll zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and snap to this intersection right here. I'll left click on it, and then now you'll see that's kind of the handle of where this text is being placed from. And then now what I can do is go ahead and snap to this intersection right here. I'll left click to drop it off. Everything looks good. I'll go ahead and right click to reset the tool. And you'll still see that you still have two items selected out there. To drop off that selection set, I can just left click out on the screen somewhere, making sure I have in the element selection tool, I have it set to individual and new. If I just left click out on the screen somewhere, it drops off that selection set, so you don't have anything selected now. Now all we have to do is go in here and edit this piece of text. So I'll just go ahead and use my standard text tools, and I'll just use the edit text. Brings up the edit text tool. Now I just select the text that I want to edit. Now all I have to do is go up in this box here and edit the text accordingly. Once it's done, I'll just left click out on the screen somewhere. That line's been edited. Now I can do the same thing for this one. And then now if I zoom out, everything looks good. Now, for this example here, we just added a row in between here. You can use this example to insert a row in between here also. Since we know what that width is, or what the height is for that row, we could do the same thing down below here if we had added stuff for like final plans. Some stuff changed in the field and so forth. We can go in here and edit that. We could use that same tool here. We could do the place fence. We could place a fence inside here. We could go back in here and use the modify fence contents. Use the stretch, and I'll do the same thing. Instead of typing it in, another method that you could do is, since we know what this is between here, another way we could do it is to snap on this point here. Let's say we want to move it a distance of 0.25 or maybe whatever this distance is. I'll snap to this point right here, and I'll snap to that point right there. Right click out on the screen to finish the operation. And I'll go back to my place fence tool to drop off my fence, because you can kind of still see it out there. And then now you have that area there inserted. Of course, we need to offset that line, so I'll use my offset tool again, or my move copy parallel. Parameters are already set up. Everything looks good. I'll left click on the line that I want to offset. Left click once. Drag it up or down depending on what direction I need to go. This one here needs to go up, of course, so I'll just pull my mouse up in this direction. Left click to drop it off. Right click to reset the tool, and then you're finished. So now you'll see that you have, zoom in a little bit better here. Now you'll see that you have your inserted row for your DGN file. So that kind of demonstrates how to insert a row in your quantity blocks for people that are out there in construction or so forth. But like I said, if you have the Excel sheet, I would probably strongly suggest to do it in the Excel sheet and then map it over into Microstation. But if you don't have the Excel sheet, this is another way you could do it if the stuff was just produced in Microstation.